All right. Ciao, Colin. Ciao, Bambini. All right, we're up and streaming. Oh, I can hear our intro. There
It
we
was
go.
me this
Yeah,
time
it's your
after all
turn.
that. Jesus. Oh, God damn it.
It's
Yep. So,
fine.
guys, hi.
Welcome back. How was your week?
It's been good. We are now we're easing into like the summer of Scotland, and I've just realized this because it's midnight here in this kitchen, and I am roasted out of my box. I've just like literally like next week it's going to be a Mariah Carey moment. There's going to be a fan. The
Oh,
hair is going to be going
nice.
all over the place.
Yeah.
It's a lot, but glad finally to have it upon us. So yeah, how was your week?
Yeah, good. Like as you said last time, it feels like it's been basically an ad break since we last did this. Because I remember last Friday I was talking about now I've got to go and move all my furniture in preparation for ayahuasca, which is of course what happened last weekend. And she had some interesting things to say about like a bunch of stuff about the project and what have you. So the 36 people who've bought the complete fools, I'm going to, in having consulted with ayahuasca, I'm going to deliver to them the Mosok Karpai rite, which is a rite I was given a couple of months ago as part of this lineage. And it is the rite of the time to come. So it's a rite that is sort of like throwing an anchor into the future as we get past this sort of Pachacuti or reorganizing apocalypse, basically. I'm bringing this up because, of course, we're talking about the Scythe today. And so there was some kind of interesting stuff like that, and just sitting with the vegetalismo nature of the card. We're doing bouquet. We've just done coffin. So it was really just kind of good and medicinal to sit with that and have the project be integrated into a bunch of other stuff, right? Because when we were setting the project up, for people who don't know, the long story short, if you watch the Astro episodes with Austin that we do every 6 months, the short version is 2021 is going to be better than 2022. And so we will be dropping this chaos bomb, or hurling it, if you will, into quite a chaotic future because the cards will be ready for early 2022. And to some extent, that was by design. That was by our design. And having just sat with the medicine and talking about the future and so on with her, it was by the cosmos's design as well, right? So there's a whole lot to do with time and fortune and being fortune's fools that's kind of unfolding in this project, which I'm quite, it's sort of fun and interesting to be part of. And she actually told me, because the Mosok Karpai, as I said, is the rite for the times to come. And all the rites I'm given in this lineage are given in seed form. So they kind of embed these seed rites in your field, and it's up to you to come into relation and grow them. And she basically said a big part of that Mosok Kampai growth for me is the development of the deck. So ayahuasca says hi. Just,
Hey, girl.
yeah. What did you get up to? You've been kind of busy. You've had a vegetalismo week yourself.
Yeah. The weekend was kind of just like a moment. You weren't the only one, Parjin, put it that way.
Mm-hmm.
And then it was just onwards. It's been like a good cycle through the past 10 or some of the past 10 deck cards, and just kind of we're in the zone now. So it's kind of like, again, last week I said like I sat down and I was having fun drawing the card because I don't have to like sweat about what, because I kind of know what it's going to look like. I kind of know what the style is. Everything's kind of in place, and it was the same again this week with the bouquet. So it was a fun, interesting, and florid affair.
Yeah. Well, we were talking beforehand that you get to learn a new gay skill every week, right? Like now you know
Yeah,
things.
like, and it, like, not even like, because you do like, so there's a bit of research, and it's not like, it's not like quantum league each week you're jumping in your body, but you are like, I was looking at like floral arrangements and like like all that kind of stuff, just so that I didn't make something completely disgusting, because I think the idea with the bouquet is that even though, as we have previously mentioned, I am morally and sexually against the buying of flowers.
Yeah.
Like, it has to look pretty, so that's kind of part of the parcel of the card.
Yeah, you can be a wedding planner at the end of all this.
Finally, my gay dreams realized. Jennifer, which Jennifer was that? Jennifer Lopez, get the fuck out.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. And I guess the only other thing, just in terms of project, is we have, as in James and I have moved further along in terms of finding, narrowing down which of the kind of Hong Kong printers we're using. And some of the cast-offs have themselves been amazing. And I want to see if I can show that. Ooh. So you can't really see it because it's blurry. But this is a Nemesis deck. It's called Atropa Belladonna or Triora. And this is from Legends in Hong Kong. But the sort of back of the card is this pentacle wheel of moon phases with like Samhain, Yule, Imbolc, Ostara, Beltane, etc. around the outside. So they're just lovely. That's the back of the cards. And if I show you, so that is the Ace of Hearts. Pulling it back so you can see. This is just what a heart looks like. They feel amazing. And I'm bringing these up because, so what is this one? This one's Ace of Spades. And it just reminds me that we're absolutely on the right track with making playing cards part of the wider project, because I look at these and I just want to, so I don't use Twitter anymore, but one of the things I miss is Doth the Goth, the Twitter account. And and I get a deck of cards like this, and I literally just want to escape into the woods and be a creepy fortune teller with playing cards. I just want to spend my whole day, all day, every day, reading playing cards. So we're getting there. We think we found, I think, a medium high confident, or even just high confident that we found our printer, and she's sending some sample decks to us as well. So the actual physicality is coming along too.
That is way cool. And we're about a quarter away through the project.
Oh, yeah.
So it's all, coming together like the perfect heist that it is.
Yes. As we heard in that terrible RuPaul show, I'm not here to fuck spiders. Yeah.
Jesus, the spider.
For people who aren't listening or who aren't aware of it and are mercifully not watching RuPaul Down Under, that is an Australian slang phrase for I'm not here to fuck around.
Right, cool.
That's what it, yeah.
Like, the context of the way it was said, I kind of picked up, and then I was like, what, that is terrifying.
Yeah. No, we have plenty of, lines of poetry like that. I wouldn't piss in his ear if his brain was on fire, is another one that comes to mind. But I'm not here to fuck spiders it's just Australian poetry.
He's a really refined the language, I feel.
All right. So speaking of refining things, I'm going to jump over to drafts. So this is where you began. Talk us through the beginning phase, and because this is, we kind of spoke about the table, but here's slide number 1 for the bouquet.
Okay, hold on. I'm a few seconds behind. Let's just get that up.
A few seconds behind. Story of your life.
I remember that in the show it was a fairly solid idea, so it was like fairly fully developed, and it was just a case of kind of sketching out and seeing what was what. Fun fact about fisheye lens is that it's a real bastard to get, especially if you're drawing something. So if you're drawing something that is based or something that's based on like a real structure, a lot of sacrifices get made in terms of like the actual architectural properties of like of Kew Gardens.
But it works out.
It was really fun. And at the end, I was like, yeah, this is totally like a Missy Elliott like video from like the 2000s.
Oh, I see that. Yeah, I see that. Because like I wanted to show the draft one first because it'll give it a couple of seconds and you'll catch up. But then we'll move along to closer towards the final, or not the final, but like pretty close to it in terms of getting the card done. And the bit that we were chatting about before we went live is love the fisheye of the room. It actually does look like you're coming up on some sort of plant-based intoxicant, but it makes I'm not sure I love the table, and I think we need, and it's because that is how it would look if you're coming up on like some sort of strange intoxicant, but it also looks naive. It looks like something that you do in like first year art school because you can't get tables right. Do you know what I mean? That's the bit I'm not sure. I want to throw it out into the chat, because if we go back to the draft, because that's on brief, right? Like the table looks like that because the whole point is that you're experiencing like distorted visual perceptions in the card. That's why it looks like that. But if we go back to the draft and the very, very first kind of like initial sketch, the little table looks like a little table. And I kind of think, we'll see what everyone else in the chat thinks, but you get what I mean about that. I'm worried that it will not look deliberate. Like people will get to this card and go, that bitch can't draw a table. And we know you can.
I sure fucking can. Well, we could do like if it's like a straight on view of the vase and the table. And it will still have that kind of weird effect of coming up on something. It won't be, it won't be, as you said, on brief. It will, and it'll remove it. But then that's kind of all right. If it removes it from the image, then it kind of just highlights it, right? So it's, I guess, an easier read again, because we have to think about that kind of stuff, like the spread of things. So yeah, I can totally see that. Like, and like this was like, excuse my French, this was a cunt to draw.
You don't say. Yeah.
But. So it's like if it's a flat on view and we kind of just mess with that a little, and it's kind of it's an easier task to kind of just sort of quickly renovate her. But yeah, I can see it. And we were like, I think most of the actual little plants in there are kind of poisonous. I try to. There's baby's breath, which I'm not sure it is.
Well, you wouldn't eat it, but that's our little Kath and Kim nod. Yeah.
There's a little mistletoe and like ivy and stuff. I was going to put in a foxglove, but it fucked up the kind of balance of things. So I just, even though that's a personal fave, I ditched that one. But we can definitely sort of jiggle her around, you know.
Yeah, cool. I love the flowers. I think that works really, really well. And it's really fun again because it is like a deadly arrangement, right? Like, so we've got some sort of
it's very goth.
Colombian death flowers in there.
Maybe in white, it's like very goth.
Absolutely, you don't need to see Vanessa Ives in this card to know that she's like right there.
I had said to you that like there was, and I think I've actually left the shadow of the two characters. I can just see it now on my phone. They were kind of creeping about in the back, but we would have had to lose one of the devil's breath, and I think it was a good balance. But if that's kind of flattened out, there would potentially be more of there would be more sort of space to kind of get that back in there. So we just have like a little couple visiting the botanical gardens for a romantic and possibly fatal day out.
Very good. Romantic and possibly fatal day out. Sounds like Fortune's Fools. But people are kind of throwing around a few suggestions. It does seem to be landing on like, we'll flatten out the table a little bit. But I think it will actually further emphasize the sort of warp of the rest of the room. I think that's in there. I think it's sort of I'm excited by it. This turned out. It's funny. You mentioned it a few cards ago when there are some that are boring, that are seemingly boring. And then they end up not being. And they end up being like, actually,
this was like,
there's a whole bunch of fucking good
like,
story.
This was like fun to draw, and it was like even the kind of structure of the dome or whatever it is. I was like, this feels like, as it does, it feels like I'm coming up on mushrooms, and this is like the kind of weird cathedral you see before it gets all crazy.
Exactly.
So yeah, it was like a fun, good time.
Yeah.
And when you get into that zone of like sitting for however many hours you're doing it, and you're kind of doing that, you do kind of get into that kind of trance state. So it was sweaty but fun work. That's what I'll say.
Yeah. So one of the suggestions is to lose the table, but I want to keep the table because it gives it that Victorian feeling, and we kind of still have to make it a bouquet, and people put bouquets on faggoty little tables like that. So I also, speaking of faggoty little tables, I want that actual table. I think that would be a nice addition to the farm.
I have the IKEA version, which is not as like gay goth Victorian wannabe, but it's an enviable situation.
Nice one. All right, so let's look at some of the other where we're at, and we'll start with the ship. So I'm going to jump over to ship, and you'll get to it in a couple of seconds. I have to say, well, I'll start because you shared this just before we went live. That really does look like Hobart. That looks like Hobart at night from essentially around, doesn't matter, no one knows anything about fucking Hobart, but that's kind of like looking at the city from the other side of the river. And it really does look like it. So even though it's supposed to sort of only hyperdimensionally be Hobart, it's kind of nailed it.
Yeah, like I don't think that I don't imagine there's a harbor like I don't think that's where a harbor would be, but as kind of like I did look at paintings of like old ye timey paintings of the port and all that, and it was very pretty.
Yeah, still is.
It's it's like a detail like the Chaos Star from the coffin, where it's like just some stupid little thing that I ended up really enjoying once it was kind of completed.
Yeah. So this has got, so talk us through where you're at with this, because, you go.
So added in the town and the port and the lights and all that, and the stars and reflected in the water. Mess around with the red and all that. It was, I think, I sent a version to you where it was the whole ship was red, and it was reading as too red, so we tried it with the sails. This one is one of those ones where, because it's like your card, I kind of want it to be 100% perfect.
Yeah, it's close, right?
To me, it's not quite, but
because I'm not sure what it is.
We're reading in the right direction.
I'm not sure what it is, like, because so we turned the ship went for, again, for people who've kind of joined later. The original conceit of the sort of look and feel for the first few cards was mostly to match the black and red of playing cards, and that kind of worked for the first two. But now that we're not doing that, it's going to look weird. And I think the bit that's going to look weird now, and I'm not necessarily saying we should remove it, but at the moment it looks like a ghost ship, and I don't know if I want that or not, because it's the sort of white outlines, and that was part of the original way of conceptualizing the whole deck before we found our cinematic universe. So that's the bit, because I actually like it. I actually like it looking like it's sort of a ghost ship, because we were trying to get those secondary and tertiary spiritual meanings into the card. But I wonder if what do you think to maybe, especially around like the actual hull of potentially losing it?
Yeah. I think that is correct and dead on. Like I tried it with just the black outline, and that also doesn't work because the rest of the cards, I don't, although usually that, like when we started this, I'd use like a more, comic style, but the rest, the cards after this don't actually have solid outlines. It's all kind of shaded in. So I think it might just be like a re-render and make like lose line altogether and just have the color and then like the solid shapes for the ship, and it'll still, and because it's kind of highlighted and it's got the red and it's got the effect in the water where you can see that it's kind of moving. I think it'll still have like an impact as a read.
I actually really like the red sails anyway, so it's not like I'd happily keep them. Chantel's made a point just in the chat that we may actually want to bring the ship down a little bit in the card, depending on how the inset's going to go. But we won't know that until we're sort of happy with how the ship looks. Because if we lose the ghost outlines, you don't want the ship to get lost in what would be a night scene. But I reckon if we dropped it down a little bit, we'll see what happens when the inset gets put in. But the mood is perfect.
Because at the time it was just like a set in space inset, like set on, like it was just floating in the air inset. So there was clear space behind it that would just be the illustration. But now it's looking like it's going to be something different. So that's probably a good call, because it's going to be like almost like a solid block of an inset just kind of floating in the middle. That's cool. That's fine.
Yeah, drop it down a little bit, not too much, because the balance with the human is very good. But I was super happy with it, and super happy with how Hobart turned out, and so on. And we just need to test different de-ghosted versions of the ship, I guess. I still think it'll be quite visible without the outlines, because we do have the kind of sunset thing happening behind Kunanyi so that you'll actually still be able to get it. Because it is supposed to be, ships typically come in of an evening, right? So it's a night scene, and that means that ships in the water are going to be slightly more difficult to see, right?
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Okay. No, I'm into it. And I think that's going to be one of those things where it's just like a simple fix will make it just right. So that's kind of we'll excited to show that at the next available stage.
All right. Now, last week's card, I love it. I absolutely love it. A couple of seconds and we'll get to the coffin.
Oh.
But it's basically perfect. That is exactly the rain that I was seeing. That's exactly the angle. I think it's fantastic.
Yeah, it's that was like I'm seeing like a kind of it really is like a kind of Frank Miller, like Sin City type thing. So it was just my first go around with the rain. I think it's going to be that, but I think it'll be less. It looks a bit too digital, if you know what I mean. Like it looks like a digital, and I kind of don't want it to have. I kind of don't. Obviously, this is all done digitally now because it's just like a time thing and it's convenient. But I don't want it to look too crazy on the digital effects. Like even with like the ghost ship, like it's a little too. Yeah, we've just learned what Photoshop is, and we're just going to use all the layer. We're going to use all the filter. So I'll as in that zone, but it's going to look a little less clean because it's rain. So, but yeah, and I like the suggestion for like the red chaos stars worked out. It's just like, and the rain is just angled that it's all kind of fallen towards the star, so that's kind of it becomes the focus of the image.
Yeah,
which is great because that's where the coffin is.
Yeah, exactly. One of the things before we forget that Nathan mentioned in the chat is that one of the other things we could do with the ship is kind of put some blue, like dark blue, into the water so that it does move back into more of a colorized thing. Yeah. So that's all. That's a good point that we just want to mention. But I love this, and it's funny. Some of the other things I was going to mention about ayahuasca on the weekend because we did the coffin card and the bouquet. So that's sort of the in-betweens that we were at last week. And it's obviously the Vine of Souls. So that was a good match. But as one of the Icaros that my ayahuasquera in Australia sings is like a variant of one of the Icaros that the ayahuasquero in the actual fucking jungle sings. So as I was coming up on the medicine, and this happened the last time I sat with it in Australia, it's coming up on the medicine and she's singing this Icaro. And it transports, because a big part of it's happening in shaman school at the moment, but playing with time and being outside time and what have you. And so a lot of my lessons on the weekend were to do with that. And so I'm coming up in the medicine and the Icaro is going, and it takes me right back to a very specific moment in the jungle where myself and jungle wife Katie are walking / staggering out of the Maloka to the bathroom, which is a hole in the ground. Because you sort of go in pairs to the toilets because you can't walk. Anyway, so we're there kind of high and talking about how different past life memory stuff that had surfaced about where we'd known each other and all this kind of usual like white people in the jungle stuff. And so I was coming up or returning to this memory and I was sort of descending, going, like, I love this. This is so wonderful. And ayahuasca's like, are you ready to let it go? And I'm like, that's what it's going to be about. You never know what she's going to do to you from a healing perspective. But she's like, are you ready to release Peru, Gordon? Because it doesn't ever come back. And I'm like,
man, that
was a lot. Because it was like my favorite. It was, other than maybe the first year of like knowing James when you're high on those love chemicals and everything. It's like you're literally high for a year. It was probably like the peak moment or experience of my life. And she's like, are you ready? And I'm like, I wasn't. And she's quite good when she's making you release stuff. She'll sort of come in and gently touch the idea. And then you go, nope, not yet. And then she'll sort of back off it and then give you all the swirls and visuals. And then when you're ready to come back in, but I'm like, it doesn't happen. It's literally, and it's kind of the funny, weird way that time works. It's 2 years ago this week, like almost to the day of me landing in Peru, right? So all of this stuff is happening in that kind of stacked sense of time. And it's 2 years ago, and it never happens again. I'm still not allowed out of this shit fucking country until next year. And the world, as we know, is going to look very different by then. So it's like, are you ready to put Peru Gordon in the coffin? And that's kind of why I bring it up in the context of this discussion. I'm like, there is it was an ending, and I'm like, oh, right. Like, he never comes back. Peru Gordon is functionally dead. She wouldn't be drawn on this. Like, I may literally never go to Peru again. And I'm like, well, that sucks because I rather like it. But Peru Gordon is dead. And I'm like, wow. Fuck you, coffin card. And fuck you, ayahuasca. But it was just kind of interesting. Yeah, I get it. I get it all. Like, I get why. And, because, by the time, if that ever happens again, that, like, the great reset has let us travel, the world looks very different. And my life looks very different by then. Like, I'll be 800 years old by the time we're allowed to go anywhere. So it's sort of that person is functionally dead.
Yeah, you're
still only 27.
So quite a long, quite a while away. Well, there's always another Peru. That's what white people are bred to believe.
That's true. She didn't say anything about Ecuador or Bolivia, so there's plenty of planet to kind of get up some good at. Yeah, but that is interesting. It's the emotion. I've not done ayahuasca, but I've heard of the emotional punch that you get, kind of, which is not a bad thing, but it's kind of a necessary part of the whole process. She's a medicine, and I wouldn't have been able to do it. So the thing is, and you learn this in shaman school, and you kind of experience it on ayahuasca, but to release those memories, it's not that I'm like, I now no longer remember my time in Peru. It's just that it was a happy place that was warping my future. She understands that, like, you have a momentum into the future based on how you are experiencing the world, and obsessing over and feeling this kind of like bittersweet longing for Peru, and not just Peru, specifically like going on Dieta, was actually warping my momentum tunnel. So that it was literally, if you devote or you trap too much energy in a memory or a thought, it fucks with the delivery of your own future. So a big part of the energy medicine training I'm doing is the work of the South, which is the work of Sachamama, the great serpent. It's teach me how to shed the past the way that you shed your skin, which is all at once. So there's this medicine of like, and it doesn't mean that you forget the past. It's that you don't hold on to it. There's a whole kind of energetics of anything that isn't in flow in an animist sense is toxic. So anything that isn't in flow or release, you have an experience, be it Peru or a love affair or whatever, and you have it and you release it, and you release it because otherwise it's toxic. It's this whole relation to a universe in movement. And I hadn't been doing that because obviously the world sucks at the moment, and it's kind of nice to have like a happy place to go to. But I was doing that pathologically, and she kind of gently said, you need to put this back in flow. So it's not that I can't kind of fondly remember Peru, but I have to stop bringing it up to the point that it hurts, right? To like really hide in that happy place. That was quite dysfunctional. And I'm like, wow, okay, fuck you. But that turned out to be correct. And that is put in the coffin. And yeah, very interesting. It was wild, put it that way.
It does sound like a Nicki Minaj lyric, and I won't say that. That's how that started out.
Well, that really.
Gordon is dead, and now she's dead in the coffin. She's fucked.
yeah. All right, now I'm happy about it.
Good. Nice. I'm glad. I would say free therapy, but obviously that's she has a little prices. But that's awesome. I need to do this shit one time because
you do. So my ayahuasca.
She and I need to have a word.
yeah. My ayahuasca went through her training in the jungle with a couple of Brits, I was telling you. So I'll see if I can't hunt down, as I said, hot singles in your area. But speaking of, weird segue, because it's going to be about my fucking nemesis. But the time has come for Cunt Board. Let me just move that over there. All right. So far, so good. I should mention I now have 3 screens, so I don't lose things. All right. So we are on the Scythe. And this is another one of those seemingly dull cards that actually isn't when you think about how it needs to be treated in our universe. And so the card we're going to go with here, the Scythe is a card of endings, of course, because it's like a harvest card, but it's better understood as the card of consequences. So in the sense that you reap what you sow, and there's all this kind of fascinating horrifying, but functional stuff that a civil unrest is guaranteed when food takes up 40% of someone's weekly income. So if you're looking at things like, that's what happened with, although the Arab Spring was in many respects triggered in Washington, D.C., it was triggered by raising the average cost of food so that feeding a family takes up 40% or above of weekly money, because then you can't pay for other things and so on. And in the US, in the last couple of months, it's gone from, and these are dodgy numbers, it's gone from about 9.6% of average weekly income to 14%. And that isn't ever a gentle curve. That is a logarithmic or exponential curve. So the next inflation print, it'll be 22% and so on. And it's one of the ways I think we end up with across the world civil unrest in 2022. So, and that happens, you get the civil unrest when your population cannot feed its fucking children. That is a scythe. That is the consequence. So you are literally reaping what you sow. And so consequently, it is the card. And also, I guess we need it in the 2020s, but it's the card of the riot. Because a riot is a consequence. Like a police violence, riot. That's a side effect that we want to be talking about, thinking about. So there aren't that many images for it, right? There's a Simpsons one, there's an angry mob, and there's a card that actually does have a scythe in it. And my conceptualization of it is that it's almost like only the top of their heads, because what I want to see is like a sea of pitchforks and torches, and at the front, someone near the front of the mob has a scythe, so that you can still find it in the tableau, and you also have this kind of story of it being unleashed. But what is that bringing up for you? What are your thoughts?
So we're facing the mob essentially in the image. Yeah.
So it's sort of like straight on that one there. I think it's actually like clip art or something, not the Simpsons one, but the other one.
See when you said me initially, because I just like glanced, and honest to God, Ghostbusters 2.
Of course.
I thought it was the haunted painting in Ghostbusters 2.
Oh yeah, Vigo.
That terrifies me. Yeah. I was like, Jesus Christ, we're really going for it this week. But no, it was really cool. I could see it being very menacing, and again, we don't focus on like the faces or so much. It wouldn't be this kind of composition wouldn't be like silhouettes, but it would be really creepy because the light of like the torches is kind of like downlighting everyone. Yes. If you know what I mean?
Yes,
and so it's not as clear as this.
Yeah,
and then you would have like the glint of light on the scythe, so that's kind of highlighted, and that, so we've got a clear kind of image of this isn't the mob card, it's the scythe card.
Exactly.
But it's very cool. Again, it's like very most Lenormand cards for the scythe that I've seen have just been like a scythe and then something else, like just laid down or laid forward.
Yep.
So very interesting.
And kind of very now. And this is it's sort of helpfully zoomed in here, but you're right. Like this may not work, but initially my thoughts are, because kind of like, let me move my mouse, kind of picture it so that it's sort of, if you can see, no, not really, kind of like running, picture the card as starting where Vigo's eyes are, right? So that's almost the bottom of the card. So you really are only getting the tops of their heads, and they're down. Because it isn't the mob card, but a mob can be a scythe effect, right? And it also means you can do, which I would like, one of the treatments, because obviously it's at night because of the torches, but it could be a street in Cairo. So there could be like a minaret or something in the background. It's either Cairo or Central Europe somewhere. Because, it has an Arab Spring element to it. But I wouldn't mind it being a street scene of some description. And yeah, but that's the general idea. And it would be kind of fun if you don't really see their faces, like they might be in hoods, maybe not, but they're the mob in its facelessness is terrifying. And that's kind of there in the card. So
and the way with if it's just like kind of that kind of eye up kind of outlook, there's space on the card for like buildings and things on the side and all that,
exactly,
like an avenue or whatever.
Exactly.
So because you'll have the inset, and again, it's another one that's good because you'll have like the whatever we decide on for like the street scene, and then you'll have like the space in the middle for the inset. And this could be like a really fucking freaky card.
Yeah.
So I'm into it.
Yeah, I think it has the kinesis that a 2022 Lenormand deck needs, which is because again, I mean, this is, and the people who go through the course, so the people who bought the complete full editions will get the training, but it'll be in the book. One of the ways you read cards is you read, in Camelia's words, you read what's on the damn cards, and for it to match the conditions of reality at the moment, you need a mob card. You need a card that's like, where is the widespread civil unrest? There it is. And because you need to be in relation to it, right? You need to, particularly in a tableau, be in relation to it. And it's a card of consequences. It's a non-judgmental card of consequences because harvesting wheat is on the Scythe card, but so is, riot and protest-based responses to systemic police violence. Those are, depending on the question, because the question always leads it, you need to be able to find both those stories in the deck and in the Scythe card. Oh, so there's a thing, if you have a faceless mob, then it's more of a villainous mob. Potentially, it conveys more of a threat, but more importantly, it doesn't have a face because it's... the constituent components of the mob are not relevant to, not as relevant as the actual simple arrival of a mob. Like a harvest is inevitable. A harvest happens, and it's an accumulation of consequences. So that's it.
Yeah, that's an interesting.
Of course, it's characteristically heroic. It's not a judgment on a mob because if you are freedom fighting, then the state is still experiencing the side effect or the consequences of state violence, failure to intervene to feed children, all the rest of it. So the card isn't bad. The consequences are good or bad depending on what precedes them, right?
Yeah, I don't imagine it would be like a crowd of, this isn't like, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre where it's just, and it's not like that kind of like, let's make fun of like poor fucking farmers or whatever. Like, so it's not going to be like that kind of gross satire that the likes of my queen Tina Fey would like to sort of involve herself with. But yeah, so like, it's not going to be like the gap-toothed, dirty unwashed masses, because that's we are the dirty unwashed masses.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's fucking real.
Well, maybe we should put ourselves in this car.
Yeah, just with like a martini in the background.
Yeah.
Like what that like in Buffy, like Anya and our vengeance pal, where they're just like kind of hanging out while it's all kicking off. Just
begging the question of when a mob becomes a parade.
Well, 'tis the season.
That's basically it. I want to talk about the inset, which is the Jack of Diamonds, and you'll notice the diamond is sharp, and the Jack is the sort of youthful card of the courts. So it is a field worker, but it is also like a surprise stabbing. So it's because it's the inset is on a quote unquote negative card. It is sharpness and it is rapidness, because the Jack is kind of like the fast card, so it can be getting stabbed, but it's also a field worker or what have you, and that's there in the inset.
Cool. Fun fact: Glasgow used to be the knife crime capital of, I believe, the planet at one point. Or maybe it was just the Europe. Maybe it was just Europe actually, because that sounds crazy. But yeah, we were involved in that. We were a real Jack of Diamonds set for a while.
I see.
But yeah, cool. I actually haven't had time to look at the Insets, so that is another fun one. It's yeah, cool.
Nice. There's not. I mean, we're kind of on top of things, really. There's anything else we want to talk about in terms of the Scythe? If not,
no. This is like fully. I mean, I have like I kind of like back. Oh, I'm gonna have to redraw this or this, that, and the next thing. But like, you come with like a fully realized sort of idea each week. So it's like good times. You know what I mean? It's not the worst job I've ever involved myself in, put it that way. I don't think I have any other input. It's a cool concept, and I think there are a few fun things we can do. Because I'm of a generation that was raised in like Terry Pratchett, it kind of puts me in the sort of death side with like the blue kind of fire and all that kind of stuff. But that's cheesy, but it kind of, and funnily enough, well, maybe it's because I knew this episode was coming up. I kind of had a dream involving all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I mean, oddly reminiscent as the old Scythe for me. I don't know. It was reminding me of my sort of 13th year, just when you could read like 14 books in 6 months.
God, I know.
Time period of your life.
We in primary school there was like... some. I mean, it must be illegal now, and it shouldn't have been legal then. Only a couple of decades ago, because I'm 27. Pizza Hut sponsored some sort of readathon when I was in primary school, so that you'd get like a voucher for like a child-sized pizza for every book you read. And I can remember being a kid and just like reading 6 young adult books a week. Like, I swear it must have been a week. Like,
Yeah, I would have sadly passed from that challenge.
Yeah, but I can't believe it's so out of step. Like, I want to say the 80s, but I'm 27. The 80s were a different time. But I know what you mean about like, why could I read books when I was 14? Why could I read like 20 books in 6 months? I mean, it's not like I wasn't busy.
Positive reinforcement.
Yeah, it's not like I wasn't busy. There was a lot of masturbating to be done at that time. But.
Indeed. Well, you used to get toys in cereal boxes, and I could fair go through a cereal box or two when they were doing the proper promotion that I was into. I was like, right, let's get this box of Cocoa Puffs absolutely destroyed so we can get on to the next one, so I can get like my little Pog or whatever. Pog, but again, only 24, so I don't actually really remember Pogs.
No, same. I was thinking that like Happy Meal toys when they had like little Muppet Baby Pogs, Happy Meal toys.
Pogs, I believe, were my first tarot deck. So, unfortunately.
Yeah. I want to come back to that death thing and Terry Pratchett and so on, because yes, and one of the reasons we didn't go in that direction is the death card in this deck is actually the coffin. Like, we just did it. But that being said, depending on how the card goes, you could have a hint of death as a character in it. If we're only doing like the top of people's heads, if one of them's in a cowl,
and we just don't see the face.
You can kind of in the same way with the clouds card, we know that windmill is the windmill from the Invisibles. Yeah. We can actually put death, and it's kind of better. It's creepier, right? Like, because death is there in the mob that's carrying a scythe. Like, it's it gives it a bit more menace. I mean, obviously it'll be in the book if we go down that direction, but it's a fun way of doing it. And I like having, because again, we keep coming back to this being a deck for people who read professionally, and to have that additional level of story available if you need it in the context of a question for a client. And that's kind of what we've been doing with the whole deck, is to make it work just at a read like the devil sense of like, the scythe doesn't mean anything but a scythe, which is true. But then you need to be able to drop down into the level of story to kind of find that coffee ground reading DNA, that mana in there. And for people who kind of go with us on this journey for the deck, when they get it in their hands, they're going to be unstoppable, because it's going to be the best Lenormand deck ever made, but it's also going to give like this sort of hyperdimensional access to different parts of story.
Yeah, it has to be the best ever made, because when I get like my version of it, I have to look at it and go, that's the fucking shit right there. Like that's like we're challenging ourselves because we want to use this deck at the end. And I want it to be 20 years old. And I look on it. We'll only be obviously in our 40s by then. And just go, that is the shit. That is what we're dealing with right now. And probably in 20 years' time, still going to be fucking useful.
Exactly. Yeah, something we'll use in our early 40s in 20 years' time. Yeah. Nice one. Well, obviously for those of you playing along at home, jump in on the Telegram group and especially early on with additional suggestions. I'm sure there'll be some treatments being thrown around in the next few days. This was good. I feel like sometimes they feel like really efficient business meetings.
Well, you said somewhere at the beginning, you were like, by 10, we know what we're doing and we know how to deal with this and still have a little fun with it. And it does. It's like, that feels like we know what we're doing. Yeah. I hate to suggest this, but are we like professionals? Is this a thing?
Well, not this week because we did fuck up technically.
Well, that's like the uncanny valley and all that kind of stuff where it's like, is it too good? Sometimes you have to put in a little, imperfection just so that people can relate, and that's what we're here for.
Agreed. Well,
relatability.
Absolutely. And so we'll see you in the next one. And
we have to do the song.
Shit, the song. Right. So having just said all that about death,
we're being like professional and we knew what we're doing, guys.
Right.
We take it all back. Listen,
we are trash. We're going to do this whole episode over again.
See y'all at 1 o'clock.
Yeah, we're both up for elimination, the whole team. So this one was kind of easy for me. Like we were talking about it beforehand. The song for the Scythe is obviously, and it was from the very beginning of the project, "Baby Don't Fear the Reaper." Nice. What else could it possibly be? One that is a banger in all its forms.
This is Blue Oyster Club, right?
Yeah. Like the original is perfect, but there are so many. I have yet to hear a version of it I don't like. I think as a song it approaches perfection, and having a couple of weeks ago said you can't just pick a word out of a song and have that match, right? Because we used Amy Winehouse as the example. Like there isn't actually a coffin in it, but the mood is there.
This is
my exception.
Drag.
This is my exception because what else could it possibly be? Like, Baby Don't Fear the Reaper. It's kind of reaping. It's approaching the Scythe card with a right attitude. So Baby Don't Fear the Reaper is the card. Is the song. What is your song then?
So mine says, funnily, you should mention about covers because that song has been covered 100,000 times, and that is still the best one. The one I've picked is Everybody Wants to Rule the World, but it's a cover because I think the initial version is a bit too prom. Just because I think I kind of relate it to like Romeo and Michelle's high school reunion or something. So my version is the Lord version because it's again a banger, and B, it's moody as fuck, and I really enjoy it. And I still listen, even though it was out. I think it was out with a movie 100 years ago. But I still listen to it just because it's a very, very, very moody kind of, and it has all the elements of reaping what you sow and people with menacing plans coming to unfortunate, although they find it to be romantic ends.
Yeah, I'm into it. This is,
and you can kind of feel the torch fire sort of as the song goes on, which I enjoy. So
this is both songs
10s across the board for both of us.
Yeah, and this is the most hetero song selection. It's still gay as fuck, but this is the most hetero song selection I think so far.
I was like, I need to queer this shit up a little. Like, so we'll go with Lord, who I don't think it is gay, but like she might as well be because that's what her fan base is. It's 12-year-old girls and
27-year-old gays,
gay men, and 27-year-old gay men. Yes. Correct. That is correct.
Nice one. All right. Well. I'm happy with the songs. I'm happy with the card. Everyone in the chat, once again, good suggestions, and we'll see you in the Telegram chat.